Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about tight hamstrings. And in this video, I'm going to teach you an exercise that could really help you with your hamstring flexibility. It's probably something that you have never tried before. It may even seem a little weird, but we're going to do an exercise that stimulates your eyes and your inner ear. So your visual system and your vestibular system. Both of these systems are very much connected to our muscle tone and our ability to, for example, bend over and touch our toes, because we're talking about hamstring flexibility. If you're somebody that has had hamstring flexibility issues, you probably struggle to bend over and touch your toes. Maybe you've never been able to touch your toes for your entire life because you feel stiff in the back of your leg. So here's what I want you to know about flexibility and looking at it through a brain-based lens. Muscles do not get to choose to be tight. Those decisions are actually made by higher order systems. So what do I mean by that? If you struggle to bend over and touch your toes because you have tight hamstrings, it's not necessarily your hamstrings as far as where the problem is. We have reflexive systems, higher order systems that actually control our hamstrings. I want you to think about it like this. If you're a customer and you are in a store and you've just made a purchase and there is a problem, a big problem, are you going to want to talk to the cashier who currently is multitasking, helping other people, and can't really get your message to somebody higher up that can help you with your concern? Do you want to talk to them, or would you rather just walk up to a customer service desk and get the manager's attention? You're going to go with the manager because you know that they're going to be able to help you right away versus the cashier who's busy doing other things. I want you to start to think about it like that. If you have a hamstring flexibility problem, do you want to speak to the cashier, which in this case would be your hamstrings? Or do you want to talk to the manager, which in this case is going to be those higher order systems? And for this example today, the higher order systems are the visual system and the vestibular system. That's how I look at improving people's movement, no matter what the goal is. And that's why using applied neuroscience is so cool, because once you understand that you have tools that will allow you to target those higher order systems, you can get some really amazing results, in this case with flexibility, and you can do it in a lot less time than if you were just hacking away at the hamstrings, speaking to the cashier, hoping that something was going to happen. Instead, in this video, we're going right to the manager, and I'm going to teach you an exercise that will incorporate your eyes and your inner ear. Are you ready? Here we go. Before we get into the exercise, we actually need a baseline assessment so that we can mark our progress as we go and understand what our body's response is to the exercise that we're going to be trying. So because this is about hamstring flexibility, a really simple way that you could assess your hamstring flexibility would be a toe touch. So for example, if you bring your knees to a gently locked out position, you can just do a forward folding type motion, reaching towards the floor, and I'm nice and tight and sore from a workout yesterday, so this will actually be good for me to see if this drill helps. So after you kind of warm up this motion a little bit, for example, my fingertips are just barely to the floor, I'm going to be taking a mental note about how far I've gone and how easy or difficult that feels. Make sure that you understand how far you've gone. Make sure that you kind of scale the tension that you're feeling in your hamstrings, and that will serve as your baseline so that once you reassess after doing the exercise I'm going to teach you, you'll know whether or not it's helping you. Now, you're not limited to the forward bend that I did. If you're somebody that's practicing some other form of flexibility training, maybe you want to improve your seated toe touch, or maybe you want to lay on your back and do an active leg raise like some people use for assessing single leg hamstring flexibility. You can use whatever assessment you want, especially if you're currently working on something, and that will be your baseline. And so whatever baseline you choose, you're going to do that, kind of see where you're living in the moment with your performance, and then we're going to do the exercise together and immediately reassess right afterward. All right, let's now do the drill. The only piece of equipment that you need is something to use as a visual target. So I have a pen. A pen or a pencil is great. If you don't have anything, you can use your finger. But I like to tell people that if you can find something that has like a little letter on it, or for example, you can stare at the tip of a pen, that actually works pretty good as a target. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my visual target and I'm going to start it out in front of me at an arm's length away. And the height of my visual target is going to be somewhere between the bridge of the nose and the tip of the nose. And the first piece of this exercise is called convergence. I'm going to be doing kind of half of what we call a pencil push-up, where my eyes are tracking this visual target in towards the tip of my nose. Okay, that's the first part. Once I get there, I'm going to add some vestibular stimulus by tilting my head back, keeping my eyes on the target, and then I'm going to do some bouncing. So I told you this was going to look weird. I wasn't kidding. Let me put it all together for you, show you from the front here, and then I'll turn to the side so you can see a different angle. But here we go. I start my target out in front of me, follow in towards the tip of my nose, and I want to make sure that I only go as far as I can see one target. I don't want my target to split into two. Once I get to this point, I'm going to tilt my head back. Now I'm going to bounce. Then I'm going to return, close my eyes, okay? Reset my target, open my eyes, reacquire my target, and then I'd be ready for another repetition. So what you just saw was one rep. Maybe I bounced roughly 10 times. Here's again what we're doing. We follow the tip of the pen in towards the tip of the nose. You want to stop if you feel like your target is going to split into two. That means you have gone too far. Some people will be able to go all the way to the tip of their nose. Some people will have to stop halfway. That just depends on you and your current visual skills. Once you get to that point, you're going to keep your eyes on your target, and then you're going to tilt your head back. Now, when you tilt your head back, we want to put some speed on it, okay? So keeping my eyes on the target, I'm going to tilt. But my eyes are still on my target. Once I get to the tilted back position with my eyes on the target, then I begin to bounce up and down. I'm just basically doing like heel bouncing or toe bouncing in a controlled way, trying to maintain good posture. And during all the bouncing, I'm keeping my eyes on the target. Let me show you from the side. Start my visual target out in front, follow it in, hold, tilt, bounce. Return, close my eyes, reset my target. Okay, I'm going to do another one. And there we go. So hopefully you understand all the little elements of that exercise, because there's a lot of things going on. And oddly enough, the bouncing can be quite challenging for your balance. Because you're converged, because your head is tilted back, as soon as you start to bounce, you'll feel it. Like you'll have to make postural adjustments. There's some challenge there that you wouldn't expect. So the idea here is to do the convergence, to tilt back, to bounce, call it 10 times, then reset. And your goal would be roughly 3 to 5 total repetitions of that little sequence. All right, so after you have completed one set of the drill, it's time to go back to your baseline assessment to see what kind of change you've experienced. So if you did a forward bend, now is your time to just check. Okay? And actually, I got quite a bit better. Instead of my fingertips just going barely to the floor, I was able to get my knuckles to the floor. So I'm able to mark some progress doing this specific drill. And I want you to see how your body responded. It's a simple game. Better, same, or worse. If you get better, you'll find that your range of motion may be increased. And potentially you'll feel like there's more movement efficiency with the movement. We often move faster when we've had a good change like that. It's possible that you didn't get any change, and that's not necessarily bad. It may mean a couple of things. It might mean that you need to try the drill again and do a better job of hitting the target, right? It's possible that your convergence was kind of sloppy, maybe your bouncing was sloppy, whatever the case might be. So go ahead and try it. It's also possible that it wasn't enough challenge or load to grab the attention of your brain. And this often happens with people within the athletic population who have a lot of athletic experience. Sometimes when we're constructing drills for them, those drills need to have more load because athletically they're used to multitasking and loading their body much more than someone who's not engaged or not an athlete. So keep that in mind. You may need to bounce faster, maybe bounce higher. Maybe you need more speed on the tilt back or speed on the convergence. And you can kind of play with those variables a little bit to see if doing the drill in a little bit more of a challenging way gives you the result that you're looking for. Now, it is also possible that a very small percentage of people got worse, meaning your flexibility literally became worse. Your range of motion reduced. Maybe now you feel tighter, whatever the case. And there are actually neurologic reasons why that could happen to some people. And I want to talk to you about that and also go over some of the applied neurology that has to do with why this kind of thing can help you out. All right, so at this point, you've done your assessment, you've tried the drill, and then you've reassessed. And many of you guys are going to get an amazing result. And if you have had an amazing result with your hamstring flexibility, your ability to bend over and touch your toes, you probably are thinking that this is voodoo. And I promise you, it's not voodoo, it's actually applied neuroscience. So let me talk you through some of that neuroscience so that you can understand these reflexive systems and some of the neuroanatomy at play with why you may have got an improvement. So it's going to be a mouthful. Well, let's kind of talk through the vestibular part first. So the vestibular activation that we had in this drill was the tilting of the head backwards and then the bouncing up and down. Okay, so why do we do that? So when it comes to the vestibular system, we have 5 sensors. Okay, and we got 5 on the right and 5 on the left. And 3 of those sensors on each side represent the semicircular canals. The semicircular canals are responsive to or help us sense accelerations in head and neck motion. So if I tilt my head back really fast, that is activating my posterior canals. Okay, and different canals are activated depending on the type of head motion that you make. If I tilt forwards really fast, that's different. That's my anterior canals. So for this drill, I tilted my head back really fast, activating those posterior canals. Now, the other 2 sensors are called the utricle and the saccule. And the saccule is one of the sensors that is helping to measure movement in the vertical plane. So think bouncing and the saccule. Okay, and it doesn't have to be bouncing, right? It could be squatting. It could be anything that is in the vertical plane, but that is the saccule. So we did kind of a combined vestibular stack, if you will, with this drill. We activated the posterior canals, we activated the saccule, okay? So it keeps going, right, as we kind of follow this neuroanatomy. Now I want to tell you that there are 4 descending pathways and nuclei in the, when it comes to the vestibular system. And those nuclei are found in the brainstem. The one that we're working on right now is called the inferior vestibular nuclei. And it is getting a lot of its information from the semicircular canals and the saccule. It just so happens that nuclei is in the medulla. Now, the brainstem has like 3 different divisions, and the bottom one is the medulla. Why is that important? The medulla is a control center for flexor muscle tone. Okay, so this is the brainstem now, the bottom of the brainstem, the medulla. So by using that combined vestibular stimulus of tilting the head back and bouncing, we're actually creating a lot of medullary activation that could potentially help us flex better. So think about your toe touch, bending over, touching your toes. That's a whole body flexion. And we upregulate flexor muscle tone by activating the medulla, and we're getting some level of inhibition in the extensor muscles, because in order to flex forwards easier, you have to get some level of inhibition in the hamstrings to allow you to bend forwards. Okay, so that's the vestibular part of this. We didn't talk you through yet the convergence part of this. Remember, we also followed in our visual target towards the tip of our nose. And by doing that and tracking that target, our eyes have to move down and in. The eye muscles that help us move the eyes down and in are supplied by cranial nerves 3 and 4. And those cranial nerves also insert into the brainstem, but it's a different part of the brainstem. It's actually at the top of the brainstem. Remember how I said there's 3 different divisions? Instead of the medulla, this is at the top. This is called the midbrain. The midbrain is also a control center for better flexor muscle tone. So what did we do when we followed our target in, tilted back, and bounced? Remember, following the target in towards the tip of our nose activates the midbrain, because this is a cranial nerve 3 and 4 drill. Then we added a very fast head tilt back. There's the posterior canals. And then finally, we bounced to also get the saccule involved in this. So this is quite a complex stack, right, for the midbrain and the medulla, which help us with better flexion. So if you got a great result from this, it is because the drill was doing what we wanted it to do, activating your midbrain and your medulla, which are control centers for better flexor muscle tone. Isn't that cool? Literally, by understanding some neuroanatomy, you can choose your drills based on the movement that you want to achieve. And in this case, we're talking about flexibility and this forward flexing motion. So going after the brainstem and getting there with some of these other reflexive systems, because we know that neuroanatomy, we can go to that higher order system and hopefully get the result that we're trying to get. Now that you understand some of that neuroanatomy, let's talk about what it means if you actually got worse from the drill, because remember I said a small percentage of people might actually experience reduced range of motion and increased tension in their body. If that happened to you, the terminology that we use to describe that is threat. So when your brain and your nervous system perceive threat, okay, when those threat levels become elevated, your brain will actually take performance away from you. So that's why you might have reduced range of motion and increased tension in your body. So why would you be experiencing threat by doing this drill? There's lots of different factors that go into it, but the most common one is that you might have vision and vestibular, or just vision or just vestibular problems of some kind of sensitivity. Again, there's so much that goes into it, but if you have a history that involves concussions or whiplash injury, maybe some sort of inner ear problem like a history of vertigo, maybe you have eye muscle imbalances due to whatever kind of visual deficit you might have. There's actually lots of them, and this stuff is more common than you would think. Then it's possible that activating those systems, like with a drill that requires you to converge and tilt and bounce, might actually be driving up your threat levels, and therefore you will get a worse result. Now, I will tell you that that stuff is fixable. It's a much bigger topic, and that's why we have an entire course designed around teaching people how to fix those systems. So just know that that is fixable. Now, at the very least, what you need to know is that if you tried the drill and it's increasing your threat levels and giving you a worse result, then it's just simply not the right drill for you right now, and you'll have to find a different entry point into improving your hamstring flexibility. And there will be different entry points, and I share tons of drills here on the channel and on Instagram that could potentially help you. So that's the threat part of this. Here's the other thing I want you guys to know, because if you got a good result from this, you kind of got to know what to do next, right? If you want, you can just perform the drill because it helps you move better and you like that about it, and then you go on with your day or your workout or whatever it is that you're doing. So you're just using the exercise as general threat reduction, and that's great because that's what's happening. When you do the drill, if you're getting a good result, you're reducing perceived levels of threat, and therefore your brain is granting you more range of motion and more efficiency with your movement. Cool, we like that. So use it for threat reduction. You can also use it in a longer term process to increase your hamstring flexibility. Here's the really important part that you need to know. Once you do the drill and create that window, that opportunity where now you're moving better, you're moving further, you have less stiffness in your hamstrings, the best thing that you can do at that point is load your body. And so if you're currently working on some kind of flexibility and you have a routine, this would go in your routine before doing the other things that you're working on, so that you can create that window of opportunity where you're moving better and you have greater range of motion. And as you go through other exercises and load your body, your brain will start to learn how to maintain that result. And it's a wonderful process that can help you get faster results than you've ever had before. So keep that in mind. You have to load your body after getting the result. Otherwise, you're getting the result, and then eventually, those results are generally temporary, and how long they last varies on the individual. You might get 2 minutes of the best hamstring flexibility you've ever had in your life. You might get 2 days of the best hamstring flexibility you've ever had in your life. People are different, and the time that they have that result varies depending on so many different things. But remember, the main point is once you achieve that kind of response in your body, by loading it, you then teach your brain how to own the result. All right, guys, that's what I had planned for you today, and I really hope you enjoyed this video on using the visual system and the vestibular system to hopefully help you improve your hamstring flexibility. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, because every action that you take really helps us out. And I would love to know how you did with this drill and what your result was. And if you have any questions, please ask in the comments, because I'd love to hear from you. If you like this stuff, taking applied neurology to help with movement issues or pain issues, make sure that you check out the Cruise Elite podcast. You should also know, and this is very important for movement professionals, we have a monthly membership called the Dojo, where inside I go live. We have a whole curriculum based around applied neuroscience so that you can apply it to yourself and your clients to help optimize your performance and your clients' performance. We also have a specialty course called the Neuro Dojo, where we go way deeper into applied neuroscience. So that's it for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.